Welcome to the webinar on Norfolk Island colonial shipping, 1788 to 1814. My name's Kathy Dunn from Australian History Research. In this webinar, you will not be able to see every single shipping record, every single shipping muster, all the different names. It covers quite a vast range of time periods and different variety of records and the locations these records are kept, covering the time period of 1788 to 1814. In that time period, there were 257 arrivals of ships and 255 departures. The numbers different. Of course, there were two shipwrecks. There was HMS Sirius on the 19th of March, 1790, and also the Hunter, an East Indian ship that was a trading ship, and it wrecked on Norfolk Island sometime in 1799. And many of those seamen from that ship became seamen settlers on Norfolk Island. The type of sources and the types of records that are going to give you the information that you may be looking for with your family history research is or are shipping musters and logs, journals and correspondence, victualling books, population returns, and don't forget stowaway lists. Not all shipping lists were recorded in the first instance, yet alone survived, as some of the ships that travelled to Norfolk Island were private charters and whaling ships. There was no administration regulation that a shipping muster must be kept. And also some of the shipping musters, for example, the City of Edinburgh of September 1808, there's 4 different versions of it, containing 4 lots of different information. And of course the numbers don't even add up. So there you go. Shipping musters give names. They do not give the full history of the person. They do not give their arrival in New South Wales, what ship they were on, what year it was. Some of the shipping musters don't even give the reason why people are going to Norfolk Island. This is the HMS Sirius shipping muster for female convicts. So we do know that it's convicts and their females going to Norfolk Island, and in this particular screenshot they disembarked on the 14th of March, 5 days before the shipwreck. And with this particular one, regardless of the women's marital status, they are all listed by their conviction name. But it doesn't say, oh, that person came on the Prince of Wales in 1788, they were tried for this much, they were tried, this is their sentence. That sort of information is not on shipping musters. And some shipping musters here, for example, 1796, Mary Page, Ella Stanfield, and 4 children. No, the children are not listed. It is just the woman and 4 children. Jane Gordon, spelling as found, name as found. She's also known as Janet. Anne Campbell and Lydia Munro and 3 children. No children's names. The musters don't differentiate between a woman, for example, Alice Sandfield, and he was with a D, so watch spelling variations, and Lydia Munro, both coming to Norfolk Island with children. One is a expired convict, and one was actually arrived with the First Fleet. There is the mystery times period between October 1796 to May 1801, the so-called mystery time period. There are shipping records available for this time period. Not many ships went to Norfolk Island during this time period. Hunter was Hunter restricted shipping. A lot of ships weren't coming in. New South Wales was starving, so they had no, and they were short on provisions, so they weren't sending much over to Norfolk Island. And it's actually the Royal Navy ships that we do have the shipping musters for in this time period and others. This is the city of Edinburgh in September 1808. So, no, in 1805, when they said, right, you're going to have to, we've decided we're going to evacuate the island, okay, start moving. Even those ships in 1805 that started the evacuation of Norfolk Island, some of those shipping musters are an absolute mess. So you have to actually go through, not 4 pages, try 400 pages sometimes, because every time they start a new date, they go right back to the beginning and restart it, and then at the tail end, they then just add the new information. So some of the shipping musters in this particular case, we have the name of the head of the household, 1 wife, and the number of children. And in this particular case, the class of their as settlers, first, second, or third. So when people go online and I see them say, oh, I found Margaret O'Brien, I'm going to pick on Margaret O'Brien, I found Margaret O'Brien, and she went to Hobart on the city of Edinburgh. Yes, she did. But her name is not on the shipping muster, simply because it is the head of the household, how many wives, I've only ever seen 1 wife luckily, and the number of children. So any child born after February 1805 and not baptised by Reverend Fulton and never on the victualling book, technically there is 0 record. There is no records, I should say, for that person on Norfolk Island by their name. They can be justified by the number of children in the different household, on the shipping records, on the land musters, and other records pertaining to Norfolk Island. This is another variation of the city of Edinburgh, and it contains different information, or I should say additional information compared to the previous one. They've all got the 3rd of September, but once you get into the victualling books and you look at journals and correspondence, you will actually find the city of Edinburgh left on the 9th of September, not the 3rd, even though the 3rd of September was when the list was made up. But then there was even a stowaway leaving Norfolk Island aboard the city of Edinburgh, and he is labelled and itemised in the victualling book as departing Norfolk Island, but he's not on any shipping muster. So you cannot take one record as a standalone. You must look at all the different types of records for that period, for that particular voyage, whether it's coming to Norfolk Island or from Norfolk Island. The surprise that it came in August 1790, there is no shipping muster. There is the victualling book, but 35% of the victualling book of 1792 to 1796, 35% of this record, not just this page, but the entire collection, is in errors or omissions. Many describe it as a list of all people on Norfolk Island. I know there are many children that are not listed in the victualling book for 1792 to 1796, quite clearly born on Norfolk Island, quite clearly departed Norfolk Island. So it's a matter of combining all the actual records. The victualling book has DD, meaning death. It has D, meaning departure. Be careful. D in any of the victualling books can mean also departure from the stores, not necessarily departure from the island. So this is something you always should be aware of, because if it's a departure from the stores, you'll find they might have come back on stores 5 months later. So you can't say the first D is a departure from the island. It is majority in the, from 1801 forward, unless it's marked Port Jackson, it is departing the actual stores. On this particular screen, we have the on the left-hand side, we have the ships of their arrivals. Please be aware there are a few errors in this. There was a previous victualling book of 1788 to the mid-late 1792, when they duplicated it and brought it over. Well, they didn't do a good job at duplicating it. We've got DD and no date, but research has shown that those people actually died before the new victualling book of the late October 1792. We've got George Guest here on the Sirius. No, he didn't arrive on the Sirius. If they said, oh, we arrived in 1790, great, you were on the Sirius, problem solved. That is not the case. And also, departing the island on a ship, we're not just talking convicts. We're talking free settlers. We're talking convict settlers, seamen settlers, New South Wales Corps, Marines. Some of them, many times, actually came back to Norfolk Island. John Gowan, for example, if you do a complete study of all the shipping records and the New South Wales Corps records, you'll see he served on Norfolk Island 3 to 4 times at different time periods. This is a black and white version of the 1792-1796 victualling book, which is available online at the Mitchell Library. But it's the originals that you see. Sometimes you have to change the colour because you have to change the tone to make it easier to be read. And there's also different pages have different information. When there's convicts, they'll say, right, they've been transferred to the settlers list. The victualling book 1792 to 1796, 1802 to 1810 are still a valuable source of information to show movement of people on and off Norfolk Island. This is September 1808 with the city of Edinburgh, and it's children above 2 years who are on half rations. Not all children were on rations. Not all people were on the stores. So if you just look at the victualling book as a source to collate a shipping record, you're going to be missing people because not everyone was on stores. So we've got the 8th of September where they went off the stores. We've also got the 3rd of September. And then if you marry that up with their mother, who may or may not have been on the stores, you will see that the mother also departed the stores on the same day. That is the day they embarked on the ship. So we've got the Thorntons, which is Lucas. Remember, children are listed in the victualling books by their mother's conviction name, except the Lucas children after 1802. And also William Peck's children once they came back to Norfolk Island in 1803. So you have to watch, even if the parents were both married November 1791 and one of them was a convict, being the female, the children in all the victualling books are still under the mother's conviction name. We've got Susan Harper here, departed the 6th of September, going down to Hobart, and she's a child above the age of 2. She's actually the daughter of Jacob Billette and Anne Harper, with an E, ER or UR, depending which record you actually read. You can see the second entry is George Goldsmith. He's still on the island. He did not depart the island in that time period. And don't forget castaways. You have to go to letters and correspondence for the different stowaways that came or that were found on ships and then just were told to get off the ship and they were landed on Norfolk Island. So you're looking not just at reports, you're looking at letters. Philip Gidley King, a horrific writer, when he was writing many of his letters and also his 3 different journals, he actually wrote when there were stowaways, and he actually very nicely wrote their names in the side column. So and you can marry that correspondence up to seeing whether or not they're in the 1792-1796 victualling book. And there is a case of one woman who was a stowaway. She's in King's, but she's not in the victualling book because she was literally put on the next ship and sent back. When we talk shipping records, there is a maze of data, historical data and historical records out there. And no, they're not all on Norfolk Island. I've published books on the seamen settlers, and all our books, except HMS Sirius Norfolk Island, includes a full profile of each of the people. So we've got seamen settlers, which covers HMS Sirius seamen, the hunter seamen, the seamen from the shipwreck of the Endeavour in New Zealand, and also some other seamen who decided to settle on Norfolk Island. With historian Glenn Lambert, we've got the Kitty Transport, which was one of the first documents, publications, which started to publicise and provide the evidence of the nearly 35% errors in the 1792-1796 victualling book. Culprits on Norfolk Island: HMAT, HM Supply, Norfolk Island over its different periods, because it did make quite a few voyages to Norfolk Island. HMS Sirius Babies and Love Children, and also HMS Sirius Norfolk Island 1790, and that of course does not include our out-of-print publications such as HMS Sirius, Her Final Voyage. Other ships that we've done is the Lady Nelson, Norfolk Island to Hobart, February 1808. Now, with the Estamina, the shipping record has not been digitised. It is not online. It is not at the Mitchell Library. It is not at the State Archives. We actually found one that was transcribed in the 1970s, but the original has walked. So sometimes you have to look outside and look at indexes and look at full transcriptions. An index is just an index of names. That does not contain any historical data. When you're looking for full transcriptions. And also the inhabitants of Norfolk Island, late 1808, after the city of Edinburgh left, to February 1814, which has a bio on every single person, over 500 people, and also the different shippings, the whaling ships that came in, who the captains were, what known crew members, and also what passengers they did take off Norfolk Island. There is a gap in the shipping records, I have to admit, and that is literally from 1805 to late 1808. We've got Isaac William. We've got John Munro / Goodwin. We don't know whether they died on Norfolk Island or whether they left by a ship. And that's because, once again, you've got private ships, trading ships calling in, you've got whaling ships calling in. And there is a small cluster of young men in age 12 to 14, 16. They've just simply disappeared from the records, from the paper trail records regarding colonial Norfolk Island. The outcome of their life is they probably joined a ship as a ship's boy, and we don't know any further information. But of course, the death records are not necessarily all completed because they didn't record a death. After Reverend Fulton left in 1806, they didn't record burials. It was only if the person was on stores, and not everyone was on stores, that there might be a death record. Or there's a death return, and there is one in, there's a few after April 1810. Shipping records or passenger lists to or from Norfolk Island are numerous, and they vary according to the different time periods and also what information is in them. But note, not all shipping records are digitised and online. And we see on social media, send us a link to that information. Well, I'm not going to send you a link to my hard drive. It is because not all the information or the records are digitised and online. They're not scanned. Sometimes they're scanned, but they're not indexed. So once again, a cup of tea, and you troll looking for not necessary information on just your one ancestor, but also on the life and society on Norfolk Island. If you go into our website, AustralianHistoryResearch.info, you will actually see shipping records, and we do have some collections there, and also articles about people who were on the different ships that came to and from Norfolk Island, and of course also our numerous books which always include the shipping to and from Norfolk Island, which was actually what we call intra-shipping, and it means shipping between Norfolk Island and Port Jackson, or Sydney if you wish to call it that, Norfolk Island, and both the north and south of Van Diemen's Land. And sometimes in a later period, the Lady Nelson kept coming back to Norfolk Island to pick up more, not passengers, but more cattle, more salted meat and more provisions that were going to be used for the establishment and the development of North Van Diemen's Land. So the big question is, where do you get it? The National Library in Canberra, both online and in the real world, and that's for all of these. The Mitchell Library in Sydney, both online and in the real world. I was at the Mitchell Library a couple of weeks ago, and I had one free day in Sydney, so I went in and I was looking at manuscripts and letters and journals that are not digitised. And I actually found a record for Isaac William in late 1807. So that is now the last known record for Isaac William. We still don't know what ship he got on or whether he died on Norfolk Island. And there's also the State Library in Sydney. Yes, you can go on to Ancestry. Yes, you can go on to Family Search. But we're looking specifically at shipping records. And those two portals tend not to have itemised shipping records because they come from such a diverse range. And never forget the National Archives in London, because you never know what is in their collection till you actually go and have a look. And of course, we've got the Trove, which has the National Archives Admiralty records. Now they're going to include the Royal Navy ships, as well as the logs. Don't forget to check ship logs, such as the Supply, the Sirius, the Reliance, the Buffalo, the Porpoise, and the Lady Nelson, all who transported both convicts, Marines, free people, and the members of the New South Wales Corps to and from Norfolk Island. So your checklist is shipping musters and logs, journals and correspondence, victualling books for the individual ones for the different time periods, population returns, stowaway lists. If you want to look into the colonial sentences, you can marry up the shipping record of their court case in Sydney or Port Jackson and them being transported. So you have to build up a timeline around the individuals that you're looking for in the shipping records. Thank you very much. Don't forget to go to our website, australianhistoryresearch.info. Thank you.